Our Media Madness segment tonight. New reports say that NBC, on behalf of Chris Matthews, paid off a sexual harassment accuser. NBC reportedly paid $40,000 to settle with an assistant producer on his show, Hardball with Chris Matthews, in 1999 after the woman accused him of harassment. Yet MSNBC and liberals have been silent about holding Matthews accountable. The woman no longer works there, but Matthews does. So do Democrats care about sexual harassment like they claim that they do, or do they turn a blind eye if the sexual abuser is a liberal? With me now from the Daily Caller, Amber Athey. Amber, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Liz. Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course, and good reporting. You're the one, of course, I told our viewers this in the tease. You're the one who broke this story. Incredible reporting here. It's almost hard to believe that NBC paid $40,000 to this woman after she lodged a complaint against Chris Matthews, and that essentially he went without repercussion. He didn't get in trouble at all.
Right. He received a formal reprimand, which I guess in media speak is basically a slap on the wrist. And they actually are disputing the $40,000 number. We got that from two sources, but they say it was actually a lot less than that, which is actually a little bit insulting if someone accuses you of sexual harassment and you get less than even a year's salary. I don't think they should be bragging about that. But they also wouldn't say whether or not Chris Matthews has received any other complaints against him over the years. Of course, he's been hosting Hardball on CNBC and then on MSNBC for about 20 years now. So what we've seen with a lot of these sexual harassment cases is that these men usually operate in a pattern. There's usually more than one incident. There's kind of an MO in how they treat women. So I'm not sure if there are other incidents against Chris. I can't say that for sure, but the fact that MSNBC refused to comment on it is certainly concerning.
Right, and it does make you wonder, Mr. Thrill Up His Leg, if this is a pattern or not. But the thing that sticks out to me too is that he's still working here after this complaint. I mean, they paid off this woman, which means that there was some credibility to the complaint, but the woman does not work there anymore. The woman was the one who was punished, and he's still working there. I mean, did you get any information about whether this incident was the impetus for her to leave, or whether she left of her own volition at a different time? Was this, not to make a bad pun here, I guess, but was that the tipping point?
Yeah, well, MSNBC stonewalled us on that as well. You know, they would refuse to comment on whether or not this was the reason that she chose to leave the network. So we have no idea if this was a payment basically as they were kicking her out the door, or if she decided to stay for a little bit longer, what exactly happened. But I think it's interesting that we initially referred to it as a settlement, and MSNBC came back to us and said it was a separation-related payment. So to me, that seems to imply that this was the reason why she was leaving.
Right. Well, it also seemed to imply that it was a cover-up because they didn't want people to know that it was a settlement for some wrongdoing. I think that, and the point that you made earlier, that such a small amount, that actually makes it worse, that's how much they paid her off to leave here. So the silence, though, has been deafening from people on these very same networks who have called out Republicans for their sexual misconduct. Where are the Democrats, the elected Democrats, the talking heads on TV, the feminists? Where are all the liberals calling Chris Matthews out for this inappropriate behavior?
Yeah, they're nowhere to be found. And actually, a lot of people were questioning my reporting because it comes from the Daily Caller, which is obviously a conservative-leaning news outlet. But MSNBC confirmed our report. A number of other more liberal outlets like the New York Times and the Associated Press also reported on it. NBC themselves wrote a story about it, even getting their own comment from their own press shop. And yet somehow people are trying to paint this as some kind of Republican or conservative conspiracy theory that we're just out to get liberal media men. And I don't know why they would think that, considering there's already been so many men from NBC that have been known to be sexual abusers. I mean, look at Matt Lauer, look at Mark Halperin, look at the senior VP, Matt Zimmerman. These are all people who spent their entire careers abusing women, and now all of a sudden it's unbelievable that Chris Matthews could have reached a settlement with someone. I mean, come on.
Right, and no, it's ridiculous. I mean, that's why it's so ironic when Democrats accuse Republicans of waging a war on women, because when it comes down to it, Democrats claim that they care about women, but only when it's politically expedient for them. When it's a sexual abuser, sexual harasser, whatever you want to call him, who is a liberal, who parrots their talking point, they're the quickest to blame the victim or to cover it up so that they can keep that mouthpiece as their own tool here. We see that, not just in the case of Chris Matthews, but we see that with Al Franken. I mean, there are now 4 top Democrats in the United States Senate who are withdrawing their calls for Senator Franken to resign. Among these, Senator Manchin, who actually released a written statement condemning Franken and calling for him to resign. And I don't understand what changed. I mean, it's not like he can take that behavior away. So why would Democrats withdraw those calls?
Well, what changed is that there's no longer a political reason for Al Franken to resign. My guess is that Democrats were using Al Franken as a scapegoat for all of the sexual harassment that's been going on in Congress, and they wanted him to resign because they wanted to be able to say that they had got the moral high ground on sexual harassment. In the case that Republican Roy Moore would have won the Alabama Senate seat, Al Franken could have said, well, I'm not resigning until you expel Roy Moore. Now that that is no longer a possibility, Franken can just stay in the Senate as long as he wants to.
Right, as long as he wants to. And now he's going to be the chain around the ankle of the Democrats, though, because we have literal photo evidence that Al Franken sexually harassed women here. And yet now top Democrats are saying, they threw him under the bus. They called it too soon. They didn't look into what he did, and they shouldn't call for him to resign. Shame on them. He abused women, he harassed women, and he should go. I'm TikTok. The clock is waiting. Amber, thanks so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. All right, guys, you have 1 minute to tweet me at Liz_Wheeler. Before we're back with Kevin O'Brien, the CDC is not banning words like the Washington Post claimed they were. Liberals made that up, and we're going to show you why next. Stick around. We'll see you in a minute.